All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Look forward to getting this group together to speak with some of our partnership guests as it relates to the 2021 NFL Draft and the community impact projects that we'll be hosting here over the next couple weeks. We're fortunate to be joined today by many people that I've had the privilege to work with over the years, knowing that each of them is very committed to making a difference here in Northeast Ohio and beyond. We'll hear from David Gilbert, Renee Harvey, Jenner Takancic, Anna Isaacson, and Rachel Stensbacher. With that, each will present a couple quick comments. We'll run through that and then we'll open up for questions. For those of you who have not joined us in this Zoom room before, we'll open up for questions at the end. In order to ask a question, please click the participants button and the official raised hand function so that we know that you have a question. We'll then call upon you and unmute your line. And please make sure to address it to the individual that you have the question for. With that, we'll get started. We'll open it up to David Gilbert. He is the president and CEO of the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission, as well as Destination Cleveland. And he's been a key member as our partnership has brought the draft to Cleveland next week.
Thanks, Rob, very much. And good morning, everybody. 8 days until the draft. Looking outside right now at about 4 inches of snow. But the long range forecast is looking good for next week, thankfully. You know, ever since we've been awarded the draft, and quite frankly, even when we were working to bid on the draft, we talked a lot about the impact. And what we focus on most is the economic impact, which even in this pandemic year is still going to be tremendous. And the fact that Cleveland will be highlighted in an enormous way to probably somewhere between 45 and 50 million viewers around the country and around the world. What we're going to hear about today is something that, quite frankly, we take maybe even more pride in than those two impacts, and really has become a hallmark of how Cleveland views and manages the major events and sometimes even the smaller events that it hosts, how we plan way ahead of time to use these major events, and the draft in particular, as a platform for community change and legacy. And obviously there's so much planning that goes in to an enormous event like the NFL draft, but I could tell you so many of these things being done on top are extra efforts that are going to be so well worth it for our community. And I would say another great hallmark of Cleveland and how we host these events are the incredible partnerships in which we do it. Certainly we've got an amazing partnership with the NFL from day one in how this draft has come together in Cleveland, but also locally, the partnership with the Browns and the Sports Commission and Destination Cleveland, the City of Cleveland, Downtown Cleveland Alliance, and many others. Some you're going to hear from today, but it really is how we are able to pull these things off the way we are. And you'll hear today from a lot of those partners and learn about how the efforts around the draft will leave a legacy in our community, a legacy for youth, a legacy around diversity and inclusion, specifically the exciting Power of Sports Summit and other really important social responsibilities. And I guess the last thing I would say is these are the kinds of things that makes Cleveland year in and year out one of the best cities and most important cities in the country for hosting major events. So now my pleasure to turn it over to Anna Isaacson, Senior Vice President of Social Responsibility for the NFL. Anna?
Thank you so much, David. And we are excited to be in Cleveland for next week's draft. As a league, it's always important for us to leave a community legacy, as you noted, in every host city we visit. But this year, we find ourselves in unprecedented times. Last year, we were forced to shift to a fully virtual format for the draft. And while we couldn't use our usual in-person engagement events, we launched something that we call Draftathon, which was and became a massive 3-day fundraiser that raised millions for COVID relief efforts. So now we find ourselves a year later, and we have the benefit of combining the best of all things. We'll again host Draftathon as a digital streaming experience during the draft, and we'll be on the ground in Cleveland next week with the ability to provide direct support to the communities who we know have persevered through so much this year, all at the same time, of course, while following CDC and local health guidelines. Draftathon has 4 key focus areas this year, and they're all at the intersection of pandemic recovery and our most underserved communities. We know these communities were hit so hard by COVID-19, so we're going to focus on bridging health disparities, the digital divide in education, mental health, and food insecurity. During a live stream across digital and social platforms that you'll be able to find across all digital platforms, but specifically at nfl.com/draftathon, we will educate fans on these issues that I just referenced. We'll hear from players, we'll hear from celebrities, and hopefully we'll raise some money for 4 beneficiaries that we've identified: the Education Trust, Mental Health America, the CDC Foundation, and Feeding America. Draftathon will come to life also through the television broadcast. So when you're actually watching the draft, you will learn and hear about Draftathon. You'll see special community guests making picks live from Cleveland. And the 4 Draftathon themes will be threaded across the live and virtual community events that are going to take place all next week. I know the Browns, Jenner, Renee, will detail some more about the activities that we're working on together and that they've been leading the way on. But these will include a digital divide event. We'll be working with the Legal Aid Society and the Cleveland Public Library. We've got a virtual mental health lesson for high school students, which we know is just critically important at this time. And we'll also be hosting an event right across from the stadium with the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. So we're excited. As I said, the draft in general is always about hope and promise for every team, all 32. And we know they're going to be great football storylines next week. But I'd say, and as we always believe here at the NFL, even just as important, there will be real impact made across this great football city in Cleveland. And we look forward to seeing that come to life over the next few days. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us, Anna. Appreciate you taking the time to meet with the group. David, appreciate your comments as well. And it's our understanding that you specifically called for the snow to come today so that it wouldn't come out next week. And you're in charge of the weather. So any questions on that, you can direct to David. With that, we're going to kick things over to Renee Harvey. She's the Vice President of the Cleveland Browns Foundation, which is focused on addressing equal educational opportunities for all students, with a focus also on addressing chronic absenteeism. Renee?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Appreciate everyone joining today. Really also appreciate the opportunity to showcase some of the great work that we do locally and in partnership with the NFL and Greater Cleveland Sports Commission. The Cleveland Browns Foundation is the philanthropic arm of what we call Browns Give Back, which is our overarching community platform that focuses on education, youth football, and volunteerism. I would also say that we've done work for a very long time that we would also say is social justice related as well. And so you'll hear about a few of those things from me, as well as Jenner, who will be coming up next. So our work on the foundation, which is our primary focus for the Browns Foundation, is really on education. We believe that education is vital, and it's something that every child deserves and access to a high quality education. And in order to receive that opportunity, we really need to make sure that kids are attending school and that they're there every day. And so I'm excited that next week during the draft, we'll be able to profile some of the great partnerships that we have through our Stay in the Game network. That network was launched in August of 2019, and it is an initiative that we have in partnership with the Ohio Department of Education, as well as Proving Ground out of Harvard. And we have a 2-goal initiative, and that is 1, to increase attendance for all students, and secondly, to reduce barriers for students living in poverty. And so many of the topics and focus areas that Anna just mentioned for the Draftathon are certainly challenges that many of our students who are trying to focus on and support are addressing and dealing with on a daily basis. I know obviously through the pandemic, our districts, families, and students have encountered a lot of challenges, and really excited that our players and coaches, ownership, and NFL Foundation have supported some digital divide efforts here locally with East Cleveland, which is the 4th poorest community in the country. And for those of you who live here, you probably know that Cleveland is the least connected city in the country. So that collection was $350,000 that went to East Cleveland City Schools to support improved bandwidth for internet, hotspots, Chromebook devices, making sure that our kids could have the opportunity to connect and continue their education. Also, we're able to support Maple Heights School District, which is another one of our districts, through the network as well. So the Stay in the Game initiative will be featured during the Power of Sports Summit, which I believe will be discussed in greater detail later, but looking forward to sharing more with you in a moment.
Thank you very much, Renee. Appreciate that update. We'll drop a link to the gettoschool.org website if you're interested in more information on the overall Stay in the Game initiative, in addition to what is occurring during draft weekend. With that, as we look forward to more on the draft weekend front, we'll turn it over to Jenna Takancic. She's the Vice President of Community Relations for the Cleveland Browns.
Hi, good morning, everyone. And it's great to see you all. And I'd like to thank everyone who's joining on the panel today. It's been such an amazing collaboration. When we first learned that the draft was coming to Cleveland, I think all of our phones were ringing. We were talking to each other to see what we could do, how we can make Cleveland extra special. And obviously we are looking to do that through the community efforts we're all speaking of today. Through our leadership with ownership, we've really been committed to our Browns Give Back platform, beginning with education, youth football, and our First and 10 volunteer movement and social justice, as Renee had mentioned. What we're really excited to be offering and bringing to fans is some opportunities to educate yourselves on the game of football. We're all here for the draft because football unites us all in one way, shape, or form, brings together people of all ages, and we will have programming to unite everyone. Beginning on Tuesday, from a youth football perspective, we will be hosting a town hall. And this town hall is to share information about some recent programs. We just launched a high school girls flag football unique is that we are bringing together Roman Oben and LaCharles Bentley. I think we all remember when they played, when they were with the team for a period of time earlier when the team returned to Cleveland in 1999. And we're going to have them join us for a discussion about what sports means to them, how to engage youth. So we're hoping everyone will tune in and walk away with some really meaningful dialogue and inspire everyone to join the effort and advance the game of football. Without further ado as well, I know we've all talked about our field project. All of you have been out there to cover it at one time or another. And in 5 years, we will be announcing that we're installing 10 fields, the 10th field this year at Shaw High School. And in East Cleveland, we will be going and breaking ground on Friday. We'll be joining the East Cleveland, some of the educators that Renee has mentioned she's worked with the digital divide. And it will be a really special moment in time that we hope you'll all join us for, and that is on Friday. From there, we talked about, youth football, we've talked about education, but we also have the opportunity to really inspire our fans through our First and 10 volunteer movement. We've been talking about this for a long time. We've engaged in, inspired nearly 3 million hours of community service through our First and 10 platform, which is a simple call to action to give 10 hours and help your community. At the draft experience, while kids are coming in, participating in some clinics and there's other activations from the NFL, we will be talking with fans about how they too can make Cleveland a better place through the First and 10 movement. And that will be on display as well. Our First and 10 are volunteers from our staff as we go join the NFL at the food bank on Tuesday from the Muni lot for a big distribution to help make sure that the families in our local area have the food and necessities that they need heading into the NFL draft. And finally, the Power of Sports Summit. I believe you are all aware of it, but this is a really unique, authentic, once-in-a-lifetime program that we are offering to the region, and it will also be in a digital format for anybody who can't be part of the programming to take part in it. One of the unique things we've all heard from a social justice standpoint is the Cleveland 3-Team Alliance. We joined with the Cavs and the Indians to form the 3-Team Alliance to really make a difference and join with each other on core focus areas. And the 3-Team Alliance will be present. We're bringing together some teenagers and law enforcement for Conversations for Change as one of the many panels that will be offered during the summit. We hope you will join us. That will be on Friday as well. And the summit is open for all, free for all to register and take part in. And with that, I know that Rachel will be speaking quite a bit more on that. So I will turn it over to her.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Jenner. My name is Rachel Stensbacher. I am Vice President of Administration and Development with the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission. Thank you for being here, and thanks for having me here as well. As noted, I'm here to talk about the Cleveland Power of Sports Summit. So the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission, under the fundraising umbrella of Velocity, which is a community-wide initiative of the Sports Commission to support and maximize the impact of major sporting events in Cleveland, has created the Cleveland Power of Sports Summit. The summit is a 3-day festival that is focused on the power of sport as a catalyst for change. We have 5 specific pillars and focus areas. Those are mental health for athletes, LGBTQIA initiatives, racial equity, gender equity, and I have forgotten my last one for a moment. I'll come back to it. We're very excited to host this event at Progressive Field. It is a free public event that's taking place Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, the same days as the draft. Within the Power of Sports Summit, there are 5 key areas that you should be aware of. One is the Community Corner. This is an area where local organizations are invited to have a traditional tabling opportunity where they can promote their resources and provide information to our attendees. These folks are primarily folks that are within the DE&I space in Cleveland. We also have workshops that are being offered free of charge. There are 4 different workshops, actually 5 different workshops throughout the weekend. 4 of them are on site and 1 of them is virtual. These workshops are, again, all around diversity, equity, and inclusion. For example, one is about coded language in sports and how to create a more inclusive culture around language that we use in sports. That's just one example, but there really is something for everyone in terms of what we have to offer for the workshops. We also have demos and exhibits. These will be up and live throughout the weekend. We have, the Achievement Centers of Cleveland and the Cleveland Browns will have a demonstration of adaptive football and other adaptive sports. Adaptive Sports Ohio will be there with a demonstration of adaptive basketball along with the wheelchair Cavs. And then we've got the Champions of Change exhibit from RISE that really focuses on gender and racial equity through sports over the timeline continuum, which is a really fantastic experience to enjoy. We have the Digital Learning Lounge, which is, as indicated, an area on our website that you can access either from the summit itself within our physical Digital Learning Lounge. It also is online on our website now. So if you want to go there and see the content that we have available, we have the content spread into those categories I mentioned. You can click and see various digital and online resources associated with those different pillars through the Digital Learning Lounge. And then finally is the Equality Lounge. The Equality Lounge is a physical space in which there are 18 different panel discussions taking place. The conversations, as Jenner mentioned, range from Conversations for Change from the CL3 Alliance to Stay in the Game from Cleveland Browns to mental health for athletes. What else? Creating an inclusive sports culture, how to be the solution in Cleveland. There are so many different panel discussions and topics related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Everyone is invited to come and participate and see how they can be part of the answer to the questions that are exist in our society right now. Registration is requested in advance. You can do that through our website. You also can register on site right at the gate. And we look forward to seeing you, and we appreciate the opportunity to provide this wonderful event during the NFL draft.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rachel. Appreciate that update, and definitely looking forward to the meaningful dialogue that will happen throughout the weekend as we talk about how sports can help further unite our communities. With that, we're now into the portion where we'll open it up to question and answer. As a reminder, if you have a question, please hit the participants button in the official raise hand function, and we'll call on you with the question. With that, please be sure to address the individual with whom the question is for. With that, our first question will go to Tom Withers.
Thank you, Rob. Good to see so many familiar faces on there, including Rob's. Hey, David, I got a question for you. I know this is maybe not exactly the draft you thought you would be hosting, considering probably limitation in capacity, et cetera, but what is your sense of pride in that Cleveland is going to host an event that is going to kind of take us back into some sense of normalcy? And then obviously attached to that, all the socially impactful things that you can do relating to the pandemic.
Hey, Tom. Well, thanks for the question. And, it's definitely interesting because, as you said, when we've been tracking this and going to lots of other drafts prior and imagining what it would be in Cleveland, we were seeing, throngs of people, elbow to elbow, and that's certainly not going to happen. But I think there's a couple of really important things, quite frankly, that overcome that. One, we are trending better and better in terms of the overall crowds that can be at the draft, and the numbers of people from Cleveland and out of town who are going to be here is still going to leave an enormous impact financially. The draft will still be watched by tens and tens and tens of millions of people around the country. But you hit on a couple important points. One is what we're talking about today. I think that it elevates the importance even more of all of the things we have been working to do to use the draft as a platform to leave a much longer and lasting legacy on the community. And I think the other thing that's become very apparent is I'd say almost the relative impact of the draft on our local community, based on the fact that we are at this really interesting inflection point of just coming out of COVID. And in talking to, think about if this would have been even 8 weeks ago, 10 weeks ago, we may not have had this live and in person, or it would have been a fraction. And the hotels, the restaurants, the downtown retail, the businesses that have been so incredibly impacted by COVID, this event will have an outsized importance for them from an economic standpoint than it might otherwise have been. And we've heard from some that have said, this is what they've been hoping for to keep them hanging on onto the other side of COVID. So it's interesting in many ways. I think the glass is in many ways maybe more full than it otherwise would have been, and we're thrilled about it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. Next, we'll go to PJ Ziegler.
Thanks, Rob. I think this question would go to David, but I'm not sure. You can't put a price tag on a lot of these initiatives that are going to be happening throughout the course of the next week or so. What is the dollar sign that will happen as a result of all this? And how many people will be impacted in a number standpoint as a result of all of these initiatives that will be happening over the next week or so?
It's hard to put a quantitative dollar sign on it. And quite frankly, that's not why we do it. Interesting, when we look at impact of events, we know the minute an event is awarded to Cleveland of any size, the economic impact is going to be there. Obviously, this one's a little different with the pandemic and changed more than other years in the past. But most of the time, you have a strong sense from the very beginning, the number of people who ought to be traveling from out of market, the kinds of spending and the economic impact. I think we look at also what are the qualitative impacts that we can have. And while you can't necessarily put a dollar figure on them, oftentimes they're the most important and the most lasting. I'm thinking about, the fields that the Browns are laying down. That's going to be something that will be here for years and years and years. Thinking about just so many of the different things that the NFL is going to be doing, of recycled materials, planting trees, you can go on and on. Those things are going to be legacies that, maybe don't have a quantitative effect, but qualitatively will be here in some cases for generations, let alone the opportunity, especially in this really interesting time that we're in now of social and political change. It's something that I think we know what the impact is going to be from a qualitative standpoint, are incredibly proud of it, even if on that part we can't put a specific dollar amount to.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, PJ. Our next question goes to Steven Hernandez.
Hello. This question should be for Rachel. I know that you covered a lot of the social events and the social workshops that you are planning to set forward. And I know the question of seeing the impact of that is very open-ended. So what are some things that your team is gauging to identify the success or the shortcomings of these events right now during this draft week and moving forward? How are you guys assessing the impacts of the programs you guys are putting together socially?
Thank you, Stephen, for that question. I think it is a little bit difficult to measure social impact and to measure, change of heart or, the way that people feel. But what I can say is that the Cleveland Power Sports Summit will give people an opportunity to talk and to interact with one another. It will also give people an opportunity to learn something new, learn something different. And we're hoping that from this, people will want to enact positive change in their community. There are multiple opportunities for folks to reflect while they're on site. We've got a reflection wall. We've got a couple of different pledges that folks can take and post on social media. I mean, although those things sound somewhat trite, I think the point is to try to encourage people to really think about what, who they are in society and what they contribute to society and how they can improve that. I would say the other thing that's very valuable, and I would say an indicator of success, is the level of involvement that we've had from the community. We've had a really great response from organizations all around the community to be involved in the community corner, as I mentioned, to serve as panelists in the Equality Lounge and others. And everyone's doing it for free. Everyone is jumping in and supporting, providing information to the community at no charge. So we really appreciate that. And I think that shows that there is a hunger for these conversations and for this content in the community.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Any other questions from the group?
Yeah, Rob, if there's one more thing I can add, if there aren't questions, it's just something that I think we touched on a little bit, but I think it's also important to note that, it's been told to us by groups that continue to choose Cleveland to host major events, that the way we go about this, the kind of thought we put into our community programming is part of the reason we continue to get chosen for major events. And it kind of goes back a little bit to PJ's question about the economics of it, that again, that's one that we don't know right now, but it continues to have and will have an incredibly long-lasting effect.
Thank you for sharing that, David. We do have a question from John Kosick. John, go ahead. John,
there you go.
Thank you very much.
David, I remember back in 2007 with the NBA Finals and first seeing how the NBA gave back during the finals. We saw it for a couple of years when the Cavs were back in it. We saw it with the All-Star game. How does what you're seeing from the NFL compare to that?
It's hard to compare one league and another and one time for another. But I will say that we are also working now on gearing up for the NBA All-Star game in 22. And it really is, very heartening from our perspective to see the way the NFL and I would also say the NBA, because they both have such a similar mindset of going into these events, looking at how they can have the most maximizing the impact on the community. They know when they choose, the NFL, they know they probably could stop by saying, hey, we've awarded this event to Cleveland. Lots of people are coming. There's the economic impact. If we look at all the programs that they have institutionalized, that early on they come to Cleveland, and I'm sure other host communities, saying, how can we work together to maximize these impacts? It really is amazing to us, and quite frankly, helps inspire us to up our game and try to have all of our community partners work together to make 1 + 1 equal a lot more than 2.
Thank you very much, John and David. We'll take one more question. It goes to Cameron Fields.
Hi, everyone. Hey, my question is for Jenner. I was just wondering, with the high school girls flag football program, Where will that be in Lake County? And then also, what time will the football field installation at Shaw High School be on Friday?
Great questions, Cameron. Thank you. The girls flag football program, it launched this spring, so it's at the end of its season right now, but the people who lead it, the individuals who are leading it from the Northeast Ohio flag football program, they will be presenting at the town hall, which is on Tuesday at 6 p.m. at St. Ignatius High School. There'll be members there who can answer any questions you may have to get the league started and go from there. Then we also have the Rookie Tackle Showcase, which is about the football development model that takes flag football, the rookie tackle, and 11-man. And that will be on Saturday at noon at St. Ignatius High School as well. And the field dedication is going to take place at Shaw Stadium at 1 o'clock on Friday.
Thank you, Cameron, and thank you, Jenner. That'll do it for today. I appreciate everybody joining us as we talk about the important initiatives that are taking place in Cleveland throughout the year, but especially as it relates to the draft coming up next weekend. As always, if you are interested in exploring any of these topics or events more, please feel free to reach out to me or any of your communications reps at the NFL and the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission. Be happy to talk further and help share this news with our audience, both in Northeast Ohio and beyond. Additionally, the league had sent out some information earlier today related to some of the events and programs that will be taking place. There'll be more information to come, both from the league, from the Browns, and from the Sports Commission in the following week. With that, thank you again for joining us. Take care. Please feel free to reach out with any questions.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.